Alright, this should be working. Gonna double check, and it is working. I am going to be sharing the stream. In the meantime, if you have any questions and you're watching this video after it goes live, you can leave them in the comments and I will gladly answer them in the next video. Which you'll probably have questions about the system after 99W, which will likely be designated either 90W or 91W. We'll see. Right now I'm just sharing the stream. Okay. Whoops. Broke that. There we go. Alright, so good morning to those mainly in the Philippines or those in parts of China and Taiwan. We are mainly going to be discussing, I believe, 99W and the tropical wave after that, which both could pose a threat to the Philippine Sea and the surrounding areas, mainly the Luzon Strait and the South China Sea, mainly by China. So, let's take a view of the wide view of tropics first. Right now we have a fair amount going on, mainly just one tropical cyclone and a bunch of other disturbances. Looking in the Atlantic, we have Invest 92L, which is likely to become a tropical cyclone over the next few days, mainly the next, I'd say, 1 to 7 days. It should curve out to sea. It may impact parts of Bermuda, but it should stay away from the United States. We also have a non-tropical disturbance off the coast of the Carolinas and Virginia, which could gain some subtropical characteristics over the next 24 hours or so before the chances start dramatically decreasing. In the eastern Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Mario with winds of around 60 miles an hour, although that is beginning to lower. And we have an eastern Pacific disturbance after that with a 20% chance of development in the next 48 hours and a 60% chance over the next 7 days. Looking at the western Pacific, this is where we get to the most active part of the world right now. We have the remnants of 98W, which are meandering in the South China Sea and should dissipate entirely within the next few days. We have Invest 99W with a 20% chance over the next 48 hours and 40% chance over the next 7 days, mainly 5 days of developing, although this is quite conservative, and these chances are likely to go up dramatically. Behind that, we have a tropical wave with a 10% chance of development in the next 48 hours and a 50% chance beyond that. This is going to be the system that could try to become a major typhoon by the time it nears the Philippines in the Luzon Strait. Alright, and there's also another, a trough that's located in the, let's say the middle regions of the western Pacific, just west of the international dateline, which could develop and will most likely go out to sea east of Japan. That has a 30% chance of development in the next 7 days. We are currently code yellow, and that is going to be due to 99W, although this will likely go up for this next western Pacific disturbance. Again, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat and I will answer them towards the later part of the stream. Looking at the satellite imagery of Invest 99W, and we can see that there is starting to be a center of circulation being developing roughly right over there. East of central Luzon. So it is showing that the system could try to become a tropical cyclone as early as the next, I'd say 3 to 6 hours or so, depending on how much this convection sustains, and if we get a scatterometer pass that confirms it has a closed low, this could already become be a tropical cyclone. It's nice though that we're getting the visible imagery now to confirm that the circulation is quite tight there on the northwestern side. Again, this is going to be meandering towards Luzon, mainly the Cagayan Valley and maybe parts of central Luzon before re-emerging in the South China Sea, where it could try to make a run for typhoon status before making landfall somewhere in China, most likely. Looking at the infrared imagery of the storm, and we can see the convective burst happening right to the southeast of the center of circulation, pretty much covering it entirely. These bursts have been going on for quite a while now, so Again, within the next 3 hours, maybe 3 to 9 hours or so, we could see a tropical cyclone pretty early out of this. And of course, the quicker it develops, the more of a problem it's going to eventually be when it moves over the Philippines and eventually onto China. Looking at the conditions that the system is in right now, I'll refresh this and I'll show you all 99W. The system is in an environment of waters right now, or roughly around 29 degrees Celsius, so very warm. And it's only expected to get warmer when it enters the South China Sea. Some areas, some pockets of upwards of 30 Celsius, 30 degrees Celsius. Let's see, I don't think there's a scatterometer pass. Looking at the distance from certain places, it is roughly around, I'd say it's located roughly right there, so around 280 kilometers away from the Cagayan Valley, roughly around 500 kilometers away from the Babuan Group of Islands, 650 from the Batanes Islands, 850 kilometers away from the southernmost tip of Taiwan, and likely around 1,200 kilometers away from where it will most likely make landfall in China, and roughly around 1,350 kilometers away from Hong Kong. Looking at the next disturbance after that, this is located roughly around 1,800 kilometers away from the Cagayan Valley. So again, lots of time to watch this, and over 2,000 kilometers away from Taiwan. So again, lots of time to watch that system. And then this system well over 2,000 kilometers away from Japan. All right, now if we take a look at some of the model data on these systems. Let's see, so it's struggling to initialize on the system. I can't pull up vorticity, unfortunately, on this map, but we can see it tries to develop it into a tropical cyclone before making landfall in the Philippines, before it moves into the South China Sea. This is the European run, and develops it into a decent tropical storm, I'd say. And then beyond that, it has that other system becoming a typhoon within the next 6 days, and maybe even a Cat 1, Cat 2 by the time it reaches, starts approaching the Luzon Strait within the next 7 days or so. So again, there's mainly 2 tropical threats that we'll need to be watching over the next several days. Looking at the American run, it does develop it into a tropical cyclone before making it become a typhoon and meanders in the South China Sea before eventually becoming a major typhoon impacting Hainan Island. This is unlikely in my opinion. I don't think it's going to get dragged that far north, and I don't think it's going to be doing this little dance in the South China Sea. Also, because of that, it has this other system, the next wave, well far more north than I think it's going to be. So on this run, it has it slamming Taiwan as a major typhoon. I don't think it's going to get that far north. This is just one model solution. Looking at the German run, I'll pull up the 12Z run. Or actually, I'll pull up the 0Z run for the initialization. Doesn't really show that wave that well, so let's go back to 12Z. Doesn't really show it developing much by the time it reaches China, before it eventually then curves to the southwest towards Hainan Island and those areas. It does develop the that next tropical wave as a tropical cyclone by the time it nears Taiwan and the Philippines in the next 7 days. This is a more low-end solution. Looking at the Canadian run, it does have the system developing into a broad tropical cyclone in the South China Sea before impacting Hong Kong and China. And it does have that next system becoming a typhoon or maybe even major typhoon before approaching Taiwan. This is on the northern end of guidance, and it could very well happen, but it's just a little bit too far out to say for sure what the impacts are going to be. All right. Looking at the ensembles on these systems, the European ensembles do show something developing out of 99W, but they're likely not handling it that well because the system is already likely approaching tropical cyclone status. They do have that next disturbance though, and it's quite bullish there, becoming a possible typhoon or even major typhoon by the time it starts approaching the Luzon Strait. Could impact Taiwan, could impact the Cagayan Valley, could impact the Luzon Strait, and then most likely will impact China within the next 10 days or so. So a lot to watch with that next disturbance. And on here we can see the ensembles. Let's see if I can go to East China Sea there, East Asian Sea there. We can see the disturbance, which is 99W, where that's expected to go, should stay somewhere in this path. And if we go beyond that and looking at the next system right here, looks like this is generally the path that it's going to take. Maybe a little bit more to the north than that, something along these lines. I feel like that's a little bit, I'd say something like that. This is at least the European ensembles as to where it's expected to go. Vietnam should also be watching this in the long range, but mainly China. Mainly the first two countries are going to be the northern Philippines and Taiwan, but also China and then eventually towards Vietnam, even Hong Kong there. It's quite uncertain this far out, but it definitely needs to be watched. Now, looking at the American ensembles there, they aren't really handling that first system well, but they do have that next system blowing up into a possible major typhoon. It is quite north. It's on the northern end of guidance. As we can see here, some of them even take it towards Japan, so I'm not quite sure about that. It is very uncertain, but I am more inclined to believe that it's going to move towards Taiwan. Looking at the European AI model on this system, it does have that. It does show a vorticity or like a circulation developing out of 99W before it impacts the Philippines. And then you could see it moving on into the South China Sea before eventually becoming a decent tropical cyclone, maybe a tropical storm before making landfall in China. But now if we look at the wave after, it does develop it into a broad tropical cyclone, maybe within the next 3 to 4 days. Before then, it rapidly intensifies into a major typhoon within the next 6 days. Before then, approaching the Luzon Strait within the next 7 days. This is as a major typhoon. Again, it could make landfall in Taiwan, could make landfall in the Cagayan Valley of the Philippines, or it could just move straight through the Luzon Strait. It's quite uncertain. Beyond that, it gets even more uncertain, and it has it making landfall in China within the next 8 days or so. But again, it is very uncertain as to what that's going to do. And after that, there's even another signal that they'll have to watch out for in the Philippine Sea. This one doesn't look as bullish, but we're mainly we're gonna try and take this one at a time. Okay, we're gonna have to first deal with 99W, then we'll eventually deal with this system, and then there will likely potentially be a third one behind that. There is also that signal in the east of or southeast of Japan, which should move to the northeast and miss the island there. Could be a threat for the Alaskan islands. Too far out to say for sure, though. All right. Now, looking at the rainfall forecast over the next 5 days across various models. Again, the next 5 days, this is primarily focusing on 99W. You can see the high amounts of rainfall here from the next system, but again, we're mainly focusing on 99W. So for parts of the Philippines here, including Metro Manila gets in around 60 millimeters of rain, Cagayan Valley gets around 40 to around 100 millimeters of rain. Parts of southern Taiwan could get upwards of 200 millimeters of rain, and parts of China could get around 100 to 200 millimeters, and the same is true for Hong Kong, which could get up to 250 millimeters, depending on how close the storm gets. Looking at the American run, and geez, it has a tremendous amount of rain by Taiwan. Rainfall totals of around 300 millimeters. The Batanes Island gets in at around 200 millimeters. The Babuan group of islands around 150. Cagayan Valley gets around 50 to 100 millimeters. And Metro Manila gets in at around 50 millimeters. China, at least on this run, doesn't get as much rain. This will likely be on the lower end of guidance, only around 15 to 30 millimeters of rain on there. German run here, showing lower totals for parts of the Philippines. Manila gets in at around 50 millimeters. Cagayan Valley gets in at around 20 to 50 millimeters. The Philippines gets in at around 50 to 100 millimeters. And parts of China get upwards of 150 millimeters of rain. Access model won't show much. MSM model won't show much as well. Alright, now I am going to answer some of your questions. Let me just get a sip of water first. Alright, Mackenzie asks if 92L is going to become a major hurricane. Honestly, I'm not sure. It's going to have to battle some dry air. And also, it may become a broad circulation. We'll see. It may quickly develop into a tropical cyclone, and it may be able to fend off against that dry air. European AI model just doesn't show it really developing much after it makes that northward turn. Keeps it as quite a weak system, and I'm quite curious as to why. It looks like it's going to get sheared due to an upper level low to the west of it. And by the time it's in a more favorable environment, it's just speeding off to the northeast into cooler waters. So yeah, I'm not sure. The previous run, I believe, showed something more. No, didn't really show much. It's been downtrending, I'd say. Earlier it was showing a lot more. Now it's showing a much weaker system. So I'd say it's uncertain. The European run is showing it being quite a strong system. Same with the American run. I do think it's certainly possible that it tries to make a run for major status. Oh, and dang, I didn't see that the American run caught on that next disturbance. May have to make a post about that. And we'll have another 2 waves or so that we'll need to watch after this system. But yeah, it could become a major hurricane. We'll see. It's going to really be battling against some dry air, which I think I can show you all right on here. It's in a nice moisture pocket right now, but it's going to be wrapping it around to the north side and sucking in dry air to the south. We'll see. Eventually, it may be able to get its moisture pocket surrounding itself entirely. We'll see. But yeah, I'm not sure. Mackenzie mentions the fact that 99W could become a typhoon and 90W could become a major typhoon and move over Philippines or Taiwan. Yeah, like I said, it's quite uncertain. Any update on the South Indian Ocean? Let's look at that. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, we also have the remnants of 93S that are lingering on. It's been pretty active, 5 tropical cyclones so far. We mainly just have the remnants of 93S, which may try to become a tropical cyclone again. I'm not so sure. Looking at models on that. Oops, did not mean to change that. Meant to do this one. Looking on here. I don't know, maybe it tries to redevelop. I'm not sure though. After that though, it should stay pretty quiet. Finally, after a while of tracking it. I don't know, maybe this system tries to redevelop. I'm not sure though. Let me see if the American ensembles are showing anything about that. Not really, just staying as a remnant low. After that, it should be quiet. I think the North Indian Ocean may try to get a tropical cyclone in the 10-day range or so. A broad monsoonal system. Let's see. Other questions here. It's still kind of sunny here in around Metro Manila. But there are dark, bulky clouds in the northeast here. It rained, drizzled in around 5 a.m. Let's pull up the satellite imagery there. Yeah, that makes sense, Manila. There's some dark clouds there. The main storm itself is located right around here, and the thunderstorms are located mainly to the southeast of it right now. This is all part of the broad circulation right now. Yeah, it's located right around there. We'll see. It could become a tropical cyclone, and there may be an update as early as tomorrow that I could make on the system. And I'll be posting any forecast cones and impacts and all that stuff on the YouTube post, Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky, all those platforms. TH mentions the fact that no strong storms going to Japan till now. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think that that next disturbance is gonna move towards Japan. Uh, Really, only the European AI model and some of the other AI models are showing it developing. The other main model should eventually cave in on it, but yeah, it should move to the northeast. If I pull up the reason why, it's going to be this trough that develops over Japan. It should stay fairly consistent. Yeah, I guess it's uptrended recently, which that should help. Yeah, move it more and more to the northeast there. You can see it right here. It it lends its hand out pretty much to drag it off to the northeast, and then it just goes up all the way to Alaska. Now, this next system, I'm very curious as to why the American run has it moving up there compared to the European AI model. It has it very far to the north, which I am curious about if it's that trough that's up there. Maybe it's just generally where it forms that may be different. Yeah, I think the American run forms it more by the Northern Mariana Islands, where the European AI model keeps it more to the west, southwest. Um, let's see here. Yeah, I'm not sure about it taking that more northerly track. We'll see. There's a lot of things that can change here. We need to see how strong 99W becomes. We need to see how strong this next signal becomes to interact with the trough over Japan. It's gonna be complicated, but I think the European AI model is doing the best job handling where it will likely go. Again, we'll see. We have plenty of time to watch this. Um, but yeah, if it verifies it, it could be a problem for both Taiwan and northern Philippines at the same time. Kinaguan mentions that they're watching from the land of hypocrite Philippines. How are you doing? Is the weather nice for you, or is it raining? Mackenzie asks if there's any updates in the Eastern Pacific. Yes, I'll pull that up now. There could be another system after Mario that tries to develop into a tropical cyclone there. You can see it right there. Could try to develop into something over the next, say, mainly 3 to 5 days before it moves into cooler waters. After that, it should get pretty quiet, maybe something beyond the 10-day range. We'll see if this is a trend or not. Yeah, something possible beyond the 10-day range. Mackenzie also asked if the Philippine typhoon season will be above average. I am not sure. We're at like a third of average in terms of ACE, so I don't know if we'll recover. We'll see. I did want to take a moment to look at some of the extreme forecast here. I saw that there could be some pretty bad rain by China there. Also noticing some bad rain up here to the west of the Korean Peninsula. I'll pull up some rainfall accumulation there. So I guess they're typically drier. But I've noticed that there could be a problem here for parts of China here over 350 millimeters of rain there. So yeah, I can see why the extreme forecast is there. Um, let's take a look across the globe if there's any other major flood events going on. Um, Nothing today really. Let's see, tomorrow parts of Canada. Not seeing anything too crazy. Wednesday, again, nothing too bad. Thursday, and noticing something up here um, by Azerbaijan. Friday, then it looks like Greenland. And then beyond that, not a whole lot. Temperature, if there's going to be any extremes on that. Of course, there's a lot of extreme warmth going on. Anything really impacting land? Some parts of Brazil looks like they're going to experience a heat wave. Beyond that, though, I'm not noticing anything too bad besides South America, some parts of Africa. Ooh, actually, Spain gets pretty bad. Western Europe on Thursday. Wind, if that's going to be a problem. Pretty windy for parts of the Mediterranean, looks like. On Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Other than that, though, that's pretty much the extreme forecast. Most of the stuff happens over the water. Mackenzie mentions that hopefully the Philippines doesn't get too crazy and like another too crazy, unlike what 2024 did at the end of the season. Yeah, hopefully the Philippines get spared this year. Well, I am going to see if there's any other questions from the last stream. I don't think there was. Last stream was a while ago, so I doubt that there's going to be any discussion about this system. Nope, just someone saying hi again. So, just going over the code system again. There may be a stream in the next 2 or 3 days. That's just going to be depending on how much of a threat 99W becomes and how much of a threat that the next system after that starts appearing to be. That is pretty much it from me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next update, which will likely be covering either 99W or that next Western Pacific disturbance. So make sure to subscribe to stay up to date. Well, I will see you all in the next update.